they communicate with. Can you tell me what they look like? Can you tell me how many of them there were? Were you given food?
But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
What a strange person.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
So when maybe you or somebody else creates an AGI system and you get to ask her one question, what would that question be?
What's outside the simulation?
Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
Do not know all the answers to questions about reality. Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden. As a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm the void one.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting live from New York, upstate near the Great Lakes, it's Lighting the Void, and I'm your host, Joe Roop, and we're live on Fringe.fm, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, as well as KFSA News Talk. Thanks for joining us. It's March the 6th, on into the 7th. It's midnight here on the East Coast, and tonight we're going to dive right into truth seeking, man. We're going to be talking to a really cool guest. We're going to get this going, right? Our guest tonight is Eben Britton from the Eben Flow Podcast, and pretty interesting guy, man. Really cool guy. If you guys want to support the show, you know where to go. Go to lightingthevoid.com and make sure. I had someone actually ask me today, can you change to an annual membership? You absolutely can. You can change to an annual membership anytime you want. You can go from monthly Patrons to annual. And a big shout out to Matt Pham for sending me these T-shirts from his fishing boat down there in Fort Lauderdale. I got your T-shirts, brother. Thanks, man. Thanks for sending that stuff out. If you want to call into the show, it's 1-800-588-0335. It's live, unscreened. We don't know what's going to happen. That's why we keep it legit. That's how everything stays in the void. It stays real. Yeah, but it has its quirks, too. So if anything goes down, we got a backup system, and we'll get back online, too, as quick as we can. Also, if you want to go into the Discord server, I think the old link don't work, so you can go to fringe.fm and just click on the Discord server too. So we're going to jump right in here because Eben Britton's here with us, and he's an athlete, former NFL player, cannabis advocate, curious mind, and the host of the Eben Flow Podcast, where he's connecting voices and minds along the journey of seeking understanding to life's mysteries, histories, and hidden truth. And you can check out his website at ebenbritton.com, and also the ebenflow.libsyn.com if you want to go right to his RSS feed. And I believe he's here on the line with us. What's up, Eben? Man, it's good to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, Joe, thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah, I'm really interested in your story. I talked to you a little bit before the broadcast, and I know you used to play football, and then you did a podcast with Mike Tyson, and then you got into the advocating for cannabis, which I think it kind of hit me the biggest because obviously Mike Tyson has a really big story about how that changed his life. And I think what you're doing is a really, really good work. I mean, we're all about the human potential here. So I kind of want to hear your story though, man, like how it went from football to where you are now, if you don't mind. I'm sure you've told it a million times, but to our audience, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I was born in New York City. I lived in Brooklyn until I was 10 years old. Around the age of 7 or 8, my parents had just gotten divorced. It was a really dark time in my childhood. And I was up at my grandparents' house in Southbury, Connecticut, and it was a hot summer day. And the afternoon news came on, and they were showing clips of the Jets and Giants in training camp. And in my little 8-year-old mind, I thought to myself, that's what I want to do when I grow up. I want to be one of those gladiators. I want to be one of those warriors out there on the gridiron. And I didn't, I grew up playing sports. I have this I was very blessed to have a wonderful blend of art and sports in my family background. Both of my parents are lifetime athletes. My father is also an artist, a painter. My mother is a lifetime journalist as well. My grandmother is an Academy Award-winning actress. So I had this really interesting blend of art and athletics. And somehow at that time I realized that football could be my way to transcend the darkness that I was experiencing as a little kid. And it was my way out of that. And so my mom would never let me play. Finally, my freshman year of high school, we had moved out to Los Angeles, California. I was 13 years old now, and with the help of my dad, I convinced her to let me play football. And from that moment on, it was like a rocket ship to the moon of everything I did, how I carried myself, how I lived, how I ate, how I thought, how I trained. Just how I moved through the world was all in alignment with achieving this goal of playing in the NFL one day. I was physically gifted. At my freshman year of high school, I was 6'3", 230.
Yeah.
I was always one of the biggest dudes in school. And then, I'm very grateful to have had two parents who are very holistically minded people. They believe food is medicine, exercise to take care of yourself, drink plenty of water, and use whatever natural means are available before going to a doctor to be prescribed something. So, as soon as my football career started, my mom was taking my brother and I to yoga classes. And she's a lifetime yogi as well. And that was very influential in my athletic career. And throughout my football career, really until I got to the NFL, I was doing yoga as well as all the weight training and a ton of other, super elite level training practices, which helped get my body to where it needed to be to keep climbing the ladder of the football, of my football destiny path. And so, by the time by the end of my sophomore year of high school, I was already being recruited by D1 schools all over the country. Before my junior year as soon as my junior year had started, I had everybody from USC and Oklahoma to Tennessee and LSU coming to visit to watch me practice and offering me full football scholarships. I chose the University of Arizona. Something about the desert really called to me. Maybe that was the mystic in me, was being called out into the desert. Also, Arizona had one of the best creative writing programs in the country, maybe even in the world. And aside from being a star football player, I wanted to be a writer. That was sort of the undercurrent of what I wanted to do with my life. And so Arizona was one of the only schools that offered a creative writing program, so I chose them. Continued to climb that football ladder. By the time I was a redshirt junior, I was on mock drafts as high as, top 10 pick in the 2009 NFL draft to about the late 20s, early 30s. So I decided to leave school early. In the 2009 NFL draft, I was drafted 39th overall by the Jacksonville Jaguars. I ended up playing 6 years in the NFL, 4 years with the Jags, 2 years with the Bears, suffered a laundry list of injuries, concussions, dislocated my shoulder twice, herniated discs in my back, multiple surgeries, torn muscles all over my body. And really, at the end of the day, the biggest life lesson of that experience was that I had achieved this dream that I had set out to achieve from the time I was a little kid for as far back as I could remember. I'd climbed to the top of this mountain, and I realized that all the money, all the access, all the success that I had experienced in my football life still hadn't filled the hole that was in my soul. It still hadn't filled the void of what I was seeking that whole time.
Right.
And so I came out of my football career mentally, spiritually, physically destroyed, and started on this long process of healing myself, pulling myself back together. And that involved, really the beginning of that process was cannabis. For whatever reason, I always gravitated towards, to be honest with you, Joe, I gravitated towards understanding more of the unseen realms of the world, and this goes back generations. I mean, I've recently been able to put context to this feeling I've had since I was a little kid as well, of being most interested in the deeper mysteries of life. And a couple years ago, my grandmother turned me on to our family history and my lineage. And my first American ancestor was a woman named Mary Bliss Parsons, who came to America in 1640 and was on trial for witchcraft 3 times, got off every time. Her and her husband founded this town in Massachusetts called Springfield, Massachusetts. There's a number of books written about her as a witch, and she had feuds with the women in her town, and because they thought she was seducing her husbands and making their children sick. There's stories of her going to farms and leaving, and all the cattle would be dead, and her being chained up in the barn at 2:00 in the morning, and howling noises coming from there in the middle of the night. And so it really made sense as far as this underlying tone that I was feeling for a long time. And I found it in cannabis. And cannabis, throughout my football career, really revealed itself to be the substance I could come to that, while the pills, the opiates, and all the prescription anti-inflammatory bullshit that they give you in an NFL locker room, when that stuff was really tearing me down, making me feel mentally insane, putting me on a hair trigger, tearing up my stomach, leaving me with severe withdrawal symptoms, waking up at 2:00 in the morning with cold sweats and chills, and my body craving this medication and never really doing anything for the pain. Meanwhile, as an athlete who's very in tune with his body and had a very intuitive connection with everything I was putting into it, how that was making me feel, here I was, and I could come home, smoke some cannabis, and I felt the physical and mental stress of my life decompress. I was able to connect with my loved ones. I was able to get rest and recover and wake up the next day feeling rejuvenated. And so that really kept up through my NFL career. And by the time I left, I was always a team captain. I was always a leader, a guy that the coaches looked to set the example for the other guys. And so I always kept my cannabis use super private. It's pretty easy to navigate the drug testing protocol in the NFL. You get tested once a year. You have a general idea of when that test is going to happen. And once the test happens, you're free to consume cannabis or really any other street drug, as they put it, for that matter, as you need it. And so cannabis was really my go-to once I got that annual test. And so coming out of my career, I felt as though I was in better shape. It was still a very difficult process and a painful process of coming out of football and totally having to kill off a big part of myself and having to be reborn, for lack of a better word. But cannabis, I felt, helped me come out of my football career in better shape than had I not had it. So I very organically, I started writing a lot about it, talking about dealing with injuries and the pill protocols and how I used cannabis, and very organically found my way into cannabis advocacy, speaking on panels around the country, talking about the benefit of cannabis as medicine for athletes, to help heal the brain from trauma, to deal with injuries as an alternative to opiates. But really, the first panel I ever spoke at was with a group of NFL guys, Kyle Turley, Ricky Williams, Nate Jackson, and myself. And I finished giving my sort of story about how cannabis had benefited me during my football career. And at that time, I was still working a lot on intuition. I hadn't really delved into the science behind cannabis yet at that time. And as I finished speaking, I'm looking out at this room. It's probably like 500 to 700 people, cancer survivors, military veterans, car crash survivors, traumatic brain injury survivors, children with severe seizure disorders who have had miraculous benefits from cannabis. All of these people have experienced life-changing positive impact from the cannabis plant. And it's starting to click for me how big and important this is, and how important it is for me to speak my truth and tell this story as I look out on this sea of people. And then the guy next to me, Kyle Turley, who was he was an all-pro offensive tackle, one of my childhood heroes, he starts speaking, and he's really the guy who kind of brought me into the cannabis advocacy work. And he starts talking about how our federal government has a patent on cannabinoids, the chemical compounds found in the cannabis plant, as neuroprotectants and antioxidants. Which means, and he goes on to say that they've seen through scientific studies that the cannabinoids, the chemical compounds found in cannabis, actually help the brain heal following an injury or trauma or a concussion, and can protect the brain from future damage. And this is patent 6,630,507. People can go check that out. It's out there. And this just completely blew my mind. He goes on to say that every living creature on the planet has an endocannabinoid system. That means our bodies were built to interact with the chemical compounds found in the cannabis plant. And not only that, but our bodies produce their own endogenous cannabinoids, mirror replicas of the chemical compounds found in the cannabis plant. And this system in our body, like our nervous system, like our endocrine system, the endocannabinoid system is responsible for how we feel and deal with pain, our mood, our appetite, our sleep rhythms, among nearly every other process in our bodies. And all of a sudden, my entire experience using cannabis as an athlete is legitimized and validated, and this fire is lit in my heart to learn as much as I could about the cannabis plant, the science and the history behind it, and what this plant really is. Also, simultaneously, I'm having this massive realization of how much we are lied to as people about what's good and what's bad. And it started me on my journey in life after football, man, of being a truth seeker and spreading the message of what I've been through, how I've healed myself, and how to help, basically how to turn the lights on for everyone else who's trying to find their way through this thing. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of my story, man.
Yeah, that's very, very cool, man. Very interesting too. I know, kind of looked into your story, and I played football for years myself, but I never went into college or NFL or anything, but I followed it enough to know that I remember hearing about, how you retired young. And, I was thinking there's got to be a reason for that, right? Like, people are kind of wondering about that as well, but it's such a high impact sport. I don't think anybody that's ever played it, especially at your level, because people just get bigger and more powerful. The kind of things that it does to your body is insane, right? And so I'm sure they were giving you all kinds of different pills and stuff like that. They did that to us in even high school. So I can't even imagine what it would be in NFL. So, did you find that cannabis actually, all of the ailments that you were trying to heal with all of the stuff they were giving you, did you find that cannabis pretty much helped you with most of it or all of it, I would say?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, cannabis was, if I had to do it all over, I wouldn't have taken any of the pills. At that time I was really in the warrior mindset of do whatever I have to do to get myself back on the field ready to play. So they're giving, I trust these people. They're giving me prescription anti-inflammatories like Celebrex, Indocin, Cataflam. These are super potent, highly powerful anti-inflammatory drugs that are 10 times more powerful than a typical ibuprofen or Tylenol, and you're on just an everyday regimen of these, taking 1 or 2 a day just to sit in meetings, so I would do those. I'd take the opiates when those were given out. And for me, they just wreaked havoc on my system. Opiates in particular were really destructive for me, and it didn't take many for me to realize how negative they made me feel. And with cannabis, pain is a great teacher, and there's a reason we feel and experience pain. And in the football world, every guy out there is dealing with constant pain, whether it's, a dislocated joint, a torn muscle, sore knees, sore back, sore neck, concussions, etc. And none of that, you're not given enough time to heal any of those injuries. And so you're constantly overriding your natural pain process to get back onto the field. You're taping it up, you're popping the pills, you're getting back out there, and you're doing this day in, day out for 10 to 20 years. For me, it was 15 years of that. From high school through college into my NFL career, it was 15 years of doing that day in and day out for, 8 months a year. And then you take 4 months off, and then you're back into it. And that 4 months, you're recovering from the season. And by the time the 4 months is up, you're just feeling good enough to start it all over again. So, cannabis for me, it just quieted me down. It helped my body manage all the inflammation that it was carrying around. It helped me rest. I could get a good night's sleep, which is paramount. That's the most important thing, because that's really the time when you actually heal and rejuvenate. That's the only time that, damaged tissue can actually repair itself, is during the night when you're sleeping. So it would help me sleep. I'd wake up feeling recovered, which the pills never did. The pills, for the most part, put me into a worse state than I was before I got hurt.
Yeah.
And so cannabis was really truly a healing tool. And, cannabis isn't necessarily a quote unquote pain killer, but you don't really want to kill the pain. You know, you need to be in touch with that. And what cannabis does is it reconfigures your relationship with the pain and gives you a different perspective on it and allows you to move through pain in a productive way that's not tearing down the body further.
Right.
And it also, there's very real chemical processes taking place when you consume cannabis that are actually helping your body heal. When you take pills, it's just like slapping a Band-Aid on a cut. You know, it's not actually helping the thing heal at all.
Right.
It's really, it's actually blunting your body's natural healing process. It's disallowing your body from healing itself. The cannabis is actually amplifying your body's healing process, which is a super important distinction.
I had a pretty bad bout with opiates myself, and it was the worst thing in the world for me to get over. It jacked up my stomach and my digestive system, my emotional status, like my energy levels, like everything. Yeah, we got to take a break here.
For sure.
I want to get into, when we come back from the break, I want to get into that, especially that thing you said about how you were living your dream, but it felt like that you were being called to something else too, because I find that pretty interesting. And it seems like, especially during this time, and we even talked about this last night, a lot of that's going around, like our spirits being here and we're being called to do some other work, especially in the truth-seeking world. We'll be right back with Eben Britton. You can go to his website too. Make sure you guys go check out the podcast, the Eben Flow Podcast. Pretty cool name too, right? We'll be right back, guys. Stay with us. More Lighting the Void coming up.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Are you stressed? I mean, who isn't? Anxiety creeping in? No, not that. Is sleep hard to attain because your brain just won't slow down? We're living in crazy times, and the fear knob has been turned up. Okay, there's an answer. Take a big breath, exhale, and go log on to AncientLifeOil.com. CBD, broad and full spectrum, organic and non-GMO CBD for you to enjoy. Change your tune from fear to calm, from brain overload to clear thinking. 0.003 THC on full spectrum and 0% THC on broad spectrum. Competitive pricing with the best quality. Also know everything is going to get better. No worries, be happy. CBD can help calm so your nerves don't think they're a 6-string electric guitar. Enjoy life, smile, and log on to AncientLifeOil.com for great CBD. That's AncientLifeOil.com. You'll be glad you did.
Want to know what's on the Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
This is Malorcas45, fan of The Fringe FM, challenging everyone to open their mind's eye. Listen to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop to gain precision for your third eye vision.
My name is Jake. I'm from Billings, Montana, and I am a Void Walker.
Hey, Joe Root. Thanks for lighting the void. This is Janine in the bluegrass of Kentucky, and I am a Void Walker.
What's up, guys? This is Damien from San Marcos, Texas, and I'm a Void Walker. I listen to the show to keep myself aligned with the world.
Hi, this is Laura, aka Laura Lavender. I'm from Las Vegas, and I listen to Lighting the Void because it helps me understand some of the strangest experiences I've had. So thanks for all that you do and for always being there for us, Joe.
Hi, this is Kronox from Belgium, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Hey, this is country music singer and void walker Jason Benoit, and when I need my fix on the world of magic and the capabilities of the human consciousness, I listen to Joe Roop right here on Lighting the Void Radio.
Born out of the alchemical tradition of Paracelsus is a medical tradition called Spagyria. Though not many people practice this work today, Phoenix Aurelius has been researching and teaching this work for the last 15 years, and he needs your support.
Hi, I'm Phoenix Aurelius, and I'm the founder of the Phoenix Aurelius Research Society, where I perform modern scientific research on the methods and techniques of Paracelsian alchemy and Spagyria for health, wellness, agriculture, ecology, and more. All my work is 100% funded by the public, so if you like what I'm doing and you want to support my research, please consider making a purchase of spagyric medicines from my apothecary, fund your own spagyric IDF wellness research, or participate in my group study or one-on-one immersion courses so that you can learn how to perform this work for yourself. I want to thank you in advance for your support.
Visit thefringe.fm/alchemy research and enter coupon code FRINGE and receive 15% off anything and everything on the website. That's thefringe.fm/alchemy research. And thank you for doing your part and keeping alchemy alive in the modern day. All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. Eben Britton, our guest on the podcast tonight. Very fascinating story. He just got through telling us this story through the NFL, how he came to learn about the benefits of cannabis. And, I want to go back to what you said before, which is, I feel like a lot of people are going through this. I mean, we all do this in our life, but it's really interesting to hear someone say, I went into this, I'm living my dream. I played in the NFL. I lived my dream, but I felt a calling to do something else. I wonder when that calling got, you said you thought about that stuff when you were a kid, but was it when you were in the NFL and you just started seeing the truth about all of the pharmaceutical companies and everything like that? And I'm trying to figure out when that trigger happened for you, when you're like, that's it, I'm out,
Well, I think it's because, I talk about this a lot now, but I think it has a lot to do with having spent my life chasing this dream that wasn't necessarily mine. I was playing football to prove to the world how big and scary I was.
Right.
I wasn't necessarily playing football because that's what my heart called me to do. That was sort of part of that. My football career was necessary to give me the foundation for what I'm doing now. And through that process, I needed to believe in it the way I did, being my destiny, because for a long time, people would ask me, Eb, what are you going to do when you grow up? I'd say, I'm going to play pro football. And they'd say, well, what's plan B? I'd say, there is no plan B. I'm going to be a pro football player. And I believed wholeheartedly that was my destiny, and that was what I was supposed to do with my life. But then doing it and reaching that goal and getting all the things I thought were going to be the things to make me happy and to fulfill me and bring me, the life that I believed was going to bring me joy and fill my heart with happiness. It wasn't doing that. In fact, it was doing the opposite. I was completely miserable doing that. And and all of that is really me just sort of following the guideposts of the universe. Our bodies, this physical vehicle that we all inhabit, it's tapped into the source of all things. This thing is connected to the universe. We are the universe embodied. And so all of the energy that we feel inside of ourselves, our feelings, our emotions, our thought processes, this stream of consciousness that we're all riding, it moves in ways that are completely out of our control. And if we're listening, for me, my body started breaking down, and that was the first sign that I was out of alignment, And you could say, oh, yeah, the game of football is violent. Yeah, that's true. But, there's a lot of guys. I played 6 years. The average is like 2.3 years. Some guys play 10 years. Some guys play 20 years. And for me, 6 years was more than enough. I probably played through a lot of, by my last year in Chicago, my appendix exploded during the bye week, and I had to go have an emergency appendectomy while I was in Los Angeles, and my high school was retiring my jersey. If that's not a sign from the universe that, you're in the wrong place, I don't know what is. And finally I come back to Chicago after a week in the hospital in LA. I've lost about 30 pounds, so I'm sitting down for another month. It's week 8. So I'm not back playing until about week 12 or week 13. And by the time I got back, I'd put the weight back on. And I'm I'm sitting there in films watching the practice, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing here now? What am I doing here? There was a time when I came out onto the football field and I literally wanted to kill people. This was my therapy for so long, to take out all of this rage from my childhood on others, and I was celebrated for it. And the more violent I was on the field, the more people loved me and the more success I experienced. And now I'm watching the film and I'm like, my body fucking hurts.
Right.
I'm literally killing myself to be out there. I'm popping all these fucking pills and taping things up, and I feel like shit. And I'm looking up at the film and I'm watching myself in practice against this defensive end, and I'm like, I used to want to kill that guy, and now I like that guy. Like, that guy's my friend. I have no interest in being violent out here anymore. And this coach behind me, he really doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. Like, he'll as soon as I'm gone, he'll pop another guy in my position, and that's nothing to say to him. My last year in Jacksonville, my 4th year in the NFL, 2 years prior to that moment, I had really been struck by the business of football, and the whole facade of this game as these guys. I looked at the team as my family. My teammates were my brothers. The coaches were my father figures. I looked up to them. I was literally willing to die for these people. And all of that was completely obliterated my last year in Jacksonville, when, after dealing with a number of injuries, coming back over and over again, we had a new head coach come in, and I got benched midway through the year. And I was literally went from being the golden child to being the exiled. And no one could tell me why. My offensive line coach, who I played for 4 years, who I loved, he'd look at me and I could tell he was choking with emotions. Like, he couldn't even speak to me. And it broke my heart. It really crushed my soul to experience that, because I was seeing that what I had perceived as this really tight-knit unit who I was willing to do anything for, it wasn't being reciprocated. And that's called the business of football. At the end of the day, they need to put what they feel is the players on the field that they feel give them the best opportunities to succeed. And I had become a guy, or they had decided that I was a guy that wasn't doing that anymore. And so, man, it was a big life experience, you know, to feel all of that, to go through, to experience the energy of people, because people can tell you one thing, but their energy will tell you something else, and the energy never lies.
Do you think it's archetypal? Sometimes I wonder, I don't know if you know anything about Joseph Campbell or the archetypes, but, you know, there's some people that are just born into life that go through, and I think we all go through this. I did in my younger years. You did it in a whole massively different level, but you go through this warrior like archetype, right? You're the warrior until your time as a warrior is like over. And then what do you, then you have to switch into the next archetype, right? The next thing that's calling.
The sage.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, it's a great, it's the perfect analogy for my life, I would say. The hero's journey, you know, and the warrior archetype, and having to transcend that to get to the next level, which for me seems to be the sage, or, and so, you know, I felt like there was something missing. Like I wasn't, you know, at the bottom line was I wasn't doing what my heart was calling me to do. At that time, I wasn't exactly sure what that was. I've always been, you know, even on the team, every football team I was ever on, I mean, you could go and ask any of my teammates. I mean, I was considered the energy center of many of the teams I was a part of. You know, if it were a tribe, I would have been the shaman. I was the guy that people came to for things, you know. And so, you know, looking back, of course, I landed here in this place where I'm teaching people about breath work and meditation and plant medicine and how to tap into their heart space and live from the vibration that is emanating from the center of their being. And that can be really difficult in this day and age where we're bombarded by technology and information and a culture that constantly wants to tell us who to be, what to be, how to think, how to dress, what car we need to buy, what our life needs to look like. And so it can be very difficult in the West, in particular in America, to tap into who you truly are.
Yeah.
And what your heart needs.
Yeah, and it's hard to make that change too. I've talked to so many people that want to make that change, what their heart is telling them to do, but the pressures of what they thought they were supposed to do, or society and everything is kind of boxed them in. So this change it seems like it's going to cause chaos and disruption. And, you know, I read this book by Robert Monroe. He said, you get to these places in life where change is going to happen. And there's this energy that doesn't want things to change. And then there's another energy that wants to change. But the distance between that of you not making a decision is the thing that causes the toxicity, you know, make the decision.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, the only thing at the end of the day, the only resistance you're truly feeling is the resistance in yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Because your ego, call it your ego, or however you identify yourself, that part of you, how you identify yourself, who you believe you are, your job, your position, your title, the way you look, etc. Like when you start to challenge that resists, because that doesn't want to die. That doesn't want to go away. You've created that character has been created in your ethos. And so when your heart is calling you somewhere else, it's painful, man. It's really painful.
Yeah.
And you think it's going to, like you said, you think it's going to cause chaos and destruction and upset a lot of people. And yes, maybe you will. You know, that's kind of part of the game. But at the end of the day, your life, once you set yourself into the river of energy that the universe has really set for you, because a lot of this is about getting out of our own way, you know, just getting out of it. We need to learn to get out of our own way. so that we can just go with the flow of the universe, because this thing has divine purpose and flow to it that's designed for us specifically. Each of us as individuals, we have our own unique path to walk. And much of it has to do with literally getting out of our own way and stopping trying to will our way through life and do these things that we think we're supposed to be doing, or what, we think will make everyone happy, or what we think everyone will think we're really cool and smart, or whatever it is. Like, that's a complete waste of time, really. At the end of the day, you've got to just be doing what your heart is screaming to do. And that can be anything, And maybe it's something really big and broad and general, like you feel like you want to help reduce the suffering of the world. I mean, that at the end of the day, that's kind of what I'm looking to do. And the means by which I do that is through my words on the podcast, or through my Instagram, which is, I do a lot of content through there, or I'm writing a book right now. So getting my words and my message out there by any means necessary, really at this stage, is, how I'm doing that. But you could do that as a janitor, as a garbage man, as a barista, as an executive, as a financial planner, as a fucking police officer, as a fireman, all sorts of things, It doesn't really matter the job. It's just about fulfilling your destiny, your heart's destiny, and that can come in many forms.
Yeah, so I'm totally with you on this, man, and I got to tell you, it hasn't been like an easy road doing that, though, right? Like it feels extremely lonely sometimes, right? But you know what I mean? Lonely and isolating, like kind of like the hermit card, because I miss that connection of people. But I'm starting to see that I think there's a lot of people coming around to it right now. I don't know. I mean, there's some fads on the internet, like magic and the occult itself is, it's going through a big thing right now. And so is obviously DMT is going through a big thing right now. I think a lot of people are kind of, I guess, being called to hidden truths, right? When I say the occult stuff, they're wanting to find out, what is this thing all about? Why am I here? What are we here to do? And it doesn't matter how many experts you talk to, how many scientists you talk to, the coolest people on the planet. Most of them they all have the same questions. Doesn't matter their experiences. They just want to know. And so I'm curious, like, have you had any big, like, eye-opening conscious experiences through your journey in this? Because I know you're big into meditation and a conscious exploration and stillness now, right? So have you had any experiences with that?
Yeah, I've had a lot, man. I've had a lot of those. I mean, I don't even really know where to begin. I've done a couple ayahuasca ceremonies. I've done a lot of psilocybin. I've done a lot of LSD. I've fucking, sorry for cursing. I'm not sure if that's allowed here, but
no, not really. I've been hitting the red button for the for the radio stations, but it's cool.
But I've experienced astral projection and meditations, which has been mind blowing and beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And what I've realized at the end of the day, and what it's all done for me, is, like you said, it's all very trendy. And there's a reason, man, because the life that's been built around us by society and the culture and this industrialized civilization, the life that's been built and provided for us is not filling the void. It's not filling the hole that we're all seeking to fill. Call it in your soul or call it in your heart. And so people are starting to question things and want a deeper understanding, and they want to know more about who they are. And for me, all of these experiences, the meditation, the psychedelics, whatever it might be, it's all bringing me back to myself and the utter ultimate reality of me and who I am and what I'm supposed to do in this world. and the being behind the being, and the being who is free of all of the trauma and free of all of the societal programming and the old programming from my childhood. And we're all, we all are programmed from the time we're little kids. We're programmed by our parents, programmed by our culture, we're programmed by our school. And it takes a lot, especially in the West. It's a process of, you hear about spiritual gurus in India or, in the East, they experience spontaneous enlightenment. All of a sudden they come in and they're totally realized, and they're everything that they could ever possibly be. And we have that within us right now. That's sort of the paradox of this thing, is that right now within each one of us is our highest self, our highest, greatest version of ourselves. It's there already waiting just for you to realize it. But in the West, we're layered with so many veils of distractions, the material, the external, all of the programming that we've been put under. So it's a process of dissolution, of piercing these veils, dropping the veils, shedding the skins, coming to terms with the self, and realizing who we truly are. And for me, all of those things that I've experienced, meditation and psychedelics in particular, because those two things really synergistically they bring you to the same place. All of this stuff. Really, and at the end of the day, the ancient samurai philosopher Musashi, I think, said it best. There's a million paths to the top of the mountain. You can get there. We all are on our way there. It's just a matter of, how
You're
many.
talking about the Book of Five Rings? I love that book, man.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's just a matter of how many obstacles sort of slow us down along the way. And for me to even say, because when I talk about meditation, or I talk about breath work, or I talk about psychedelics, there's plenty of people out there who go, "Oh God, dude, that doesn't work for me. That'll never work. That'll never do it." So it's like, okay, great. Keep doing what you're doing. If you feel good, keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it. You can't, the reality is you can't outrun your heart. So for as long as you want, you can avoid the truth of who you are. You can avoid it. You could turn away from it. You could find escape valves. You can do drugs. You can go out after sex. You could drink alcohol. You could fucking play video games. You could do sports. You could do all these things. There's a million fucking things to do to distract yourself from the truth of who you are. But one day, your soul is going to be screaming so loud from the bottom of your heart that you're not going to be able to avoid it anymore. There's just going to be nowhere else to go.
Yeah, there's nothing.
And that's when,
dude, that happened to me when I did this podcast in 2016. I was working at Verizon at a tier 2 tech level tower, and it's you're right, it's the best job ever, best job you're gonna get in this town, right? Best benefits. And I was so I felt like I was gonna explode, man. And I just stood up one day at work,
I know.
and I was like, "Listen, I don't know what y'all are gonna do, but I'm not doing this no more." And they're like, "What?" And I just walked out, and they're like, "You're not gonna do 2 weeks notice, or you've been here for like 3 years?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm done. I ain't doing it anymore. I can't do this." And I really didn't even know what I was gonna do, man. I just couldn't stand the feeling anymore.
Yeah, it totally resonates with me, Joe.
Yeah. For sure. Well, I want to get to some of, I got a ton of questions. There's some in the chat room too. We can open up the phone lines as well. We're at the top of the hour here. You guys go check out the Eben Flow Podcast too. Go to www.ebenbritton.com and you can check out his podcast there, as well as all his social media links. And when do you think your book's going to be done? Or are you just kind of going with the flow with that?
June 1.
June. Cool. All right. So we need to be looking out for that as well, too. So we're at the top of the hour. We'll be right back. 1-800-588-0335. Make sure you go to the website for reference. Stay with us.
Hey, this is No Way Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a void walker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLK-DB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Root on the Fringe FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney, your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a void walker.
G'day, void walkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Root.
Hey, this is Fee, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a void walker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner void walker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Root in the show, and I heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new art gal. Thanks for all your shows, and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, aka the Night Stalker, and I'm a void walker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a void walker. Thanks, Joe Root.
This is Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races and your palms get sweaty. You don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
Have you heard of heavy metals? Yeah! I'm not talking about the heavy metals in the junkyard. I'm talking about the heavy metals that build up in your body. Heavy metals in your body can make you feel sluggish, fatigued, and just plain off. Why not try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com? Cleansing your body and making you feel great. Cleansing the inside of your body of intruders that sneak their way into you and set up an intruder camp. Life Change Tea helps remove unwanted intruder camps. Brew it, steep it, and drink in the results. Tastes great so you can create a new health habit. Our tea loves to help people. It just needs the chance. So order yours today by logging on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our Life Change Super Strength Tea is waiting. This could be a beautiful relationship. Take charge of your health. Order at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Chainsaw. You are listening to Joe Root and Lighting the Void here on the Fringe FM.
Lighting the Void. 1-800-588-0335 is the call-in number if you want to speak to our guest, Eben Britton, and check out his podcast, The Eben Flow. And you can go to www.ebenbritton.com. I've had almost 700 episodes, man, and I think you're the first professional football player I've ever talked to, or professional sports player. I'm usually talking, and this is why I think it's really cool, because I really believe this right now, Eben, that there's, and maybe I could be wrong, maybe it's because I'm into it, but I think we're in a different energetic age. I really feel like there's a ton of people waking up to some spiritual stuff, and bigger than I've ever experienced. I don't know about you. What do you think?
No, I totally agree, man. I think it's a pretty amazing time to be alive, for sure. You know, I think a lot of people are really. There's this book called The Right Use of Will. Have you heard of that?
No. I was looking on your Instagram though, and I saw that it was on there. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was channeled by this woman in New Mexico, and she talks a lot about Atlantis and Lemuria and Pan and sort of the beginnings of whatever this planet we inhabit. And so it's profound because she talks about how at this stage in civilization or in human consciousness, human evolution, human progression, we have become so mired in judgment and denial. And, you know, that goes from the judgment and denial that we hold over ourselves and how we feel and how we think, and around the world around us and the people around us, and how all of it has completely disconnected our will, which our will is really supposed to be connected to the divine will. And so through judgment and denial, we've been disconnected from that, and we're really reaching the critical mass of that experience. And that's what, you know, you're talking about when you're saying you're talking to more and more people who are saying, man, I just feel like I'm not where I'm supposed to be, or I need to be doing something else. And I'm seeing it a lot too, man. I mean, everything I post has to do with something like this, and helping people just access the deeper realms of themselves. And every time I do it, I mean, my inbox is filled with messages of people saying, Eb, I feel this shift happening inside me. Eb, I did this and I couldn't believe how it made me feel. And, you know, and people are really, because, you know, the culture, the framework that we've been functioning in is no longer sustaining us. It's not sustainable. You know, it's not a sustainable paradigm that we've been living in. And so it's time, like the Spirit is calling us into our purpose, into our truth. You know, we've become too wholly identified in the mind and reliant on the intellect. And the mind is super limited in its perception and how it moves through the world. Our mind only has access to the experience that we've directly had in front of us. And that's even distorted when you've got television and social media and all other sorts of things that literally turn our minds off. But the heart is connected to the source of all things, the universal wisdom, the highest intelligence. And so in the heart, life is infinite and eternal. And so people are being called back into their heart. And really, psychedelics, meditation, all of this stuff, it drops people out of their mind and into their heart space. And that's why people can have psychedelic experiences. And it's like if you got on a rocket ship and went straight into outer space and you had no training, you didn't do anything to prepare yourself, that'll be really scary. Because all of a sudden it's like, what do you hold on to? There's no ground beneath your feet. Now what do? You know, your job is whatever X, Y, and Z or whatever you did or had around you to identify yourself and remind you of who you are in this little material realm that you find yourself in. That's all gone. Now what? Who are you? What am I doing here? Who am I? And that can be really terrifying, but it's also the only way out. Because there is the only thing that we actually really have access to, which is, you know, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating, man. But that I've had a couple of moments like that in football too, and I got my bell rung. Isn't that funny? Like you get your bell rung a couple of times, you know, you go to that place for a minute where there's nothingness, and then you come back to everything. And it's
right.
like, you know,
exactly.
Yeah, it's like you go to this dark place that comes back through tunnel vision, and then you're like, oh, okay, I'm back in reality. It's like waking up from a dream. But when you really start to dig into yourself, it's kind of cool that you can stay aware through this whole process. You don't really lose consciousness. You can stay aware through that traveling from this reality to the inner realms. I just don't think, Eben, I don't think people have any idea the potential of the human being. I don't even think we've begun to tap into it yet. I really don't. I mean, I think we started to tap into it, but I don't know. I mean, with all of your experiences with like the psychedelics and stuff, do you feel like that we are really starting to tap into our potential? Because I don't know if you study any magic or occult stuff, but man, I'm one of those kind of people where I'm not afraid to try something. I'm not saying I'm going to go talk to demons or anything, but it's like, I'm not afraid to try something just to see like if it's going to work. Right. And I've had some experiences, man, where I feel like we have no idea what we're capable of. We really don't.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man. Well, it's infinite, you know, it's beyond infinite. You know, I don't know if you've ever watched one of those documentaries about space and the universe and just how infinite it is. Like it keeps going.
Yeah.
It literally keeps going. There are no boundaries. There are no walls. It's completely limitless. You know, there are as many galaxies as there are grains of sand on a beach. You know, beyond that, it's even more than that. Like, it's incomprehensible. You can't even conceive of how infinite and vast it is. That's how infinite and vast our consciousness is.
That's
so know, crazy. And that's how infinite and vast we are, you know. And we've been very disillusioned with the experience of being human. You know, that's part of the issue. People have been you've been tricked you've been manipulated into believing that you aren't really that powerful, that you can't really do that much stuff. You know, that you're really living this boring little existence. And it's sad, you know, it's sad that we've been convinced into that belief paradigm, but it's false, you know.
Right.
I think there's miracles happening around us every day. I mean, the fact that we're here, that you're birthed into this realm and living in this physical body, you are in fact a miracle in yourself. a million processes, even more, happening right now to keep all of us alive and running that are completely out of our control, that we have nothing to do with. You know, there's trillions of cells in your body that are highly intelligent, that are literally just collecting information constantly without you even thinking about it, to keep you moving and functioning, and, you know, and everything matters. Literally everything matters. You know, on a quantum level, everything is connected, everything matters. Every single thought you have matters. Literally. Every word you speak matters. Every time you smile at someone while you're passing them walking down the street, it matters, because you're sending ripples of energy through the universe, through the cosmos, that has an effect on the frequency and the vibration of all of it and how it moves and functions. And on a microcosmic level, when you have a positive impact on an individual, whether it's a family member, a friend, someone you pass by on the street, the person you get your coffee from, whatever it is, that is so profound, because your positive energy is being transferred to that person. And that person is taking your positive energy and they're adding their positive energy to it, and they're disseminating that to everyone they come into contact with, and so on and so on and so on and so on for infinity. And it literally, every single thing matters, because it literally changes the vibration of the environment that we live in. And who knows, man, if we get to a point where we're all living in a super high vibration, we can make anything happen. This planet is alive. This planet has a vibration and a frequency to it, and it will respond in a way, in a very specific way, to us and our vibration. You know, and right now, there's a fantastic book. I don't know if you're into Dr. David Hawkins or not, but he wrote a book, super powerful book called Power vs. Force. And in that book, he really laid out the levels of consciousness. He mapped out consciousness of humanity, and it's profound, the work he did, because he took these kinesiological muscle tests to test positive and negative stimuli. So basically, this is a super simple kinesiological test, which is basically, most of us have seen this or experienced it or come across it in one form or another, but basically, like, hold your strong arm out in front of you and have someone resist it and try to push it down. And they would take this and they would do it with say, someone smiling at you and telling you, I love you. And someone would test the strength of that arm, and it would be really strong, versus saying, I hate you, with a frown, and that same person would test really weak to that stimuli. So this guy took those tests and put it to thousands and thousands and thousands of people. I mean, it's mind-blowing how much study he put into this. And he tested that with all sorts of things, and psychological and spiritual concepts. And he basically, through that practice, he realized that there's a deep intuitive knowing in the physical body that transcends the mind's knowing. So the physical body will know if something is negative or functioning at a very low level of consciousness before the mind can actually go through the process of learning about what all the sort of the information, the data around the thing is, to make up its mind about whether or not it's positive or negative. And so what he talks about in there is the vast majority of human beings on this planet are functioning at a very low level of consciousness, which is that of fear. And you look around you, look at what COVID has revealed to us, look at how many people are walking around in a complete prison of fear. And so, but that being said, that is greatly outweighed by the amount of people who are living in high levels of consciousness. The smaller percentage of people who are living in very high levels of consciousness, joy, peace, serenity, and the first, so he maps out the consciousness from 0 to 1,000, and 0 is being dead, and then 1 to, and then it goes like apathy, anxiety, anger, frustration, fear, so on. And then the first level of consciousness that's living from a place of strength or a positive place is the level of courage. And in the level of courage, that's when an individual starts to take accountability for their life.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. Because all of those negative emotions, they overwhelm you until you get to that point of courage.
Yes, exactly. And that's really the first step. Like if you've ever been involved in any 12-step programs like AA or anything else, the first step in those programs is you take accountability for your life. You surrender to the fact that your life has become unmanageable as a result of alcoholism or drug abuse or whatever it might be. And you surrender to that fact and you start to take accountability. You start to take responsibility for yourself and you live from a place of courage because now you're acknowledging what your life really is.
Right.
Up until that moment, you were living in a victim state. It's the world's fault. It's my circumstances' fault. I don't have enough money. I was brought up in this place. My parents are fucked up. My teachers are fucked up. I was abused, et cetera, et cetera. And we've all got our trauma. We've all got our things that we have to go. We all have our own paths. But so, and in this day and age, I think that, I don't know, coming back to it, man, I think that I don't really like the term waking up because like you said, it's all becoming really trendy. And I'm a big fan of the occult, and I'm a big fan of,
cool.
With magic with a K. Actually, I told you about my first American ancestor, Mary Bliss Parsons, but then a much closer relative of mine is a guy named Jack Parsons, who was father of modern rocketry and very deep in the occult. And he was born out here in Pasadena, blew himself up in his garage at the age of 37. Many people think maybe he was killed, but he spent a lot of time. He was basically Aleister Crowley, who is, notorious occultist, magician. He was the head of, yes, exactly, Thelema. He was the head of the OTO at the end of his life, and he basically took Jack under his wing and looked at Jack as sort of his successor, and they had a very close relationship for many years. But so, I think people have a hunger for learning about the unseen realms of reality, and what's sort of behind the veil of this everyday physical material existence that we've all woken up in.
I don't think, but here's the thing, like, I bring up Robert Monroe so much because and the reason why I call the show Lighting the Void, and I call the listeners Void Walkers and all this other stuff, is because I love
that name.
I don't think we're going to get the answers without that step you're talking about. Number one is courage, right? Because we're tired of not having the answers.
Yeah.
We're tired, right? So we're willing to do things, and especially when it comes to conscious experimentation, to try to at least, we may not, narrow it down to one tree, but we want to start getting the answers as far as the forest goes. And then we want to get some real answers. And at this point,
absolutely,
all I know is that I have this other thing of myself that exists either outside of my body or inside of consciousness, however it works, that is not, it doesn't have anything to do with my physical body. And it's also connected to a place that everybody else is connected to. And I've figured that much out. And I think a lot of us have figured that much out, and we still need to keep exploring, man, and be willing to do that.
Absolutely.
I kind of
pouring myself some water here.
I kind of think that's what the magician, being a magician, was about. And, you know, Aleister Crowley, he gets a bad rep, and I'm not too big of a fan of him for certain things, but at the same time, you know, like, he was a void walker. Like, he was a kind of guy that's like, you know, a lot of his stuff was rebellious too, because he was angry about his childhood and religion. And I get all that, but, he wasn't afraid to step outside the box, you know, and try to figure out what was going on, you know, like, even with demons and all kinds of stuff. Like, I'm going to find out what's real about it. And he wrote a ton of work about it. So
absolutely. Well, you know, I think we've gotten a lot of that twisted up, man, you know, in our sort of, in our puritanical traditions, you know, and because living in the mind, we want to compartmentalize everything and put an identifier or a label on everything, and we call the things that seem bad and dark as demons, and the things that seem light and positive as angels, or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, like, for me, man, I couldn't take accountability for my life until I was willing to embrace the darkness in me, you know, and realize that the darkness of my life, my demons, had kept me safe for so long, you know, and they're incredibly valuable and a very integral part of who I am as a human being, you know, in the whole scope of who the being that is Eben is, you know, that includes the demons and darkness, you know, and making friends with those guys. That's how we get there, brother, you know, because until you do that, those guys, every time you try to force them back into the darkness, out of view, out of sight, out of mind, you're just giving them power. You're giving them more strength until you confront them and they come to you and you go, "Good to see you, old friend. It's very nice. I acknowledge you. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here." Then, you know, we start to complete the puzzle in ourselves so that we can gain access to the other stuff.
Yeah, that's so cool you say that, man, because I'm going through that stuff right now too, actually. Like, embracing, I've been going through that for a while, but like embracing the dark side of yourself. Because here's the thing, what you'll find out about the dark side about yourself that you're just letting run amok or ignoring, you'll find that they're very useful once you kind of tame them, like a pet in a way, like you're talking about, a friend.
For sure.
You know?
For sure.
Because a big guy like you, man, you know, think about a guy like you, if you were engulfed by anger, okay? And people say anger is a bad thing. Rage is a bad thing. Rage is demonic. Well, true, if it's out of hand and it just runs amok and you don't control it. But if you've mastered yourself, that rage that you have and anger could protect a whole fleet of people if you knew how to embrace it, you know?
Absolutely, man. And that's, you know, one of my gifts is anger, dude. I mean, that's been one of my main grappling partners for a long time. And it's taken me, I'm still learning to appreciate it when it comes, because you're exactly right, dude. When I ignore it, when I try to push it away, when I don't allow myself to feel it, because I think, you know, that old societal programming of, "Oh, Eb, you shouldn't be angry.
Right.
Eb, you're too spiritual to feel anger." Man, I find myself 2 days later in a fucking rage, you know, or I'm getting short with my wife and my daughter, you know, and I'm getting frustrated or whatever it is. And it manifests itself because it's like, you can't hide it. And, you know, and I've kind of crossed through this thing now, man, where there's no more escape valves for me. The escape valves make the shit worse. So I have to either face this shit when it comes up and just move through it and experience it and feel it in its fullest extent, or, you know, like you said, that stuff's going to come out because the veil has become so thin so thin. I'm like right there constantly. And I have to just acknowledge it, because otherwise I feel too out of whack.
Yeah, I mean, you're born on this planet, you know, with the genetics makeup and the etheric makeup at that as a warrior too. So you're naturally going to have some rage in you, but that stuff can be put to good use. But at the same time, like I have it too. And when I feel anger, like I've learned to say, you know, hello, anger. I'm angry. I'm pissed off. Right. I
love that.
You know what I mean? People, well, don't get all pissed off. Like, no, I'm pissed off because of this, and this is why. And I'm not going to let myself not feel it. But what I will do is take responsibility of how I use it as a tool, you know?
Exactly, dude. Exactly.
But
it's a practice. Hey, man, and that's what that's the true essence of being a warrior, man. You know, you're talking about
the warrior archetype.
But, you know, the true, you know, in our society, we think that being a warrior is about, you know, thrusting the sword and carrying the shield and having the armor and all of that stuff. And that's sort of that's the physical dimension of being a warrior. But the spiritual warrior, you're constantly in tune, deeply in tune with all of the things moving through you.
Yeah.
The anger, the sadness, the frustration, the anxiety, the fear, and acknowledging it as it comes up, because that's when life is so rich. Life becomes so rich when you're in that, you know?
Yeah. You ever get people like say, they say, I wish I could do what you do. I wish I could just say what I feel and what I think and all this other stuff and do it. It's like, you can. You really can. Yeah. There's a voice in you telling you that you can't, but you totally can. It's not hard.
Absolutely. That's what I'm trying to do. That's everything I'm doing is just about showing people that you can do it. You know, you have that power. This is not unique to me. I've just sort of come to a place where I can't not speak my truth anymore. You know, because I did the same thing. I spent many years feeling afraid of speaking my truth, speaking my heart, but slowly but surely, every time I did it, my spirit, the universe rewarded me in some way that was more profound than any monetary gain or any sort of physical reward that I could ever receive. It was like, I felt like in the video game when you get to the next level. That's how it felt, but in real life. Like I made it to the next level because I broke through this. I broke through this boundary in myself, and I transcended to a higher level of consciousness where I realized a little bit more was possible, and then a little bit more was possible, and a little bit more was possible. You have that difficult conversation. You speak your heart. You're saying, you know what, man? I don't think I'm where I'm supposed to be. Man, you quit your job and you just start following your heart. Fuck, it's scary as hell.
Yeah, it is scary.
But you know what? You do it and you break through that boundary and you realize what's possible. All of a sudden, your whole world changes. Your whole life changes. Your whole perspective changes.
Yeah, it does. It does. Everything opens up, and all of a sudden you realize, for me, it was this realization. It was like, well, I had a job, and I was struggling in life, not feeling too good. So why not? I mean, and it kind of logically made sense. It's like once I saw outside the paradigm, I'm like, well, I can struggle on my own. I don't need help from these people, you know?
Right.
Right. I can struggle doing what I want to do, you know?
Exactly. I might as well struggle doing the thing that makes my heart sing.
Exactly. And, you know, you were talking about the demon stuff earlier, and I think this goes back to what, you know, with cannabis that helps, and I would say DMT and ayahuasca, using nature and things like that, because we're messing with nature right now. I don't know what you believe, and I don't want to go into a big tangent on this, but me personally, like the viruses and colds and all this stuff, they're a part of nature, you know. And I think that, you know, as we keep putting antibiotics in ourselves and masks, and we keep not allowing our immune systems to work, and they're like, oh, the viruses just keep mutating. Well, that's how it works, because it has a job to take out the weak. That's how nature works. And now you're stopping it from doing it. So it's going to mutate into an AIDS virus because you keep pumping antibiotics in your body and masking yourself up, you know? So it's, that's what's happened to us now. But anyways, nature, like with psychedelics, is really cool, and cannabis. Because I know you did that podcast with Mike Tyson, and I remember watching, well, I don't know, it was like an old documentary, and Mike Tyson was known for his temper. And this reporter that he was talking to, Mike Tyson let this guy in his home, and this reporter's just purposefully poking the bear, you know, asking him, well, how did you feel when you did coke? And did you feel like you let this guy down in your family? And you could just see the demon come out in Tyson's eyes, just like that. And he, you know what I'm saying? And he had total control over it for a moment. He said, I think you need to leave. Right. Because he knew he had that beast. He goes, I'm not going to be able to hold on to this sumbitch very long, you know? Right. But he'd embraced it. And now everybody sees him because he's big into cannabis, and he's big into psychedelics and stuff too. He still has that part of himself, but he's opened up this other part of himself where he knows how to, I guess, control this kind of stuff a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
But I've never done ayahuasca or DMT. I've always wanted to, actually. I just have never done it. I've done LSD and mushrooms and stuff, and that was kind of back in my 20s, but I've never done it, and I'm ready, man. I'm ready to do it. It's going to change my life, isn't it?
Sounds like it. I think it'll just validate a lot for you, man.
Yeah.
You know, it'll show you who you truly are. I mean, it sounds to me like you're very much on the path already, you know, of what it brings you to. So, for me, it was very validating and very difficult. First ceremony was really blissful. I saw, my entire life sort of move in front of me, and everything I'd ever experienced throughout my life had led me to the point that I was at, and it was all perfect, and it brought me to exactly where I needed to be and where I was supposed to be. And then the second ceremony I had, I was completely alone. I was brought into the heart cave, dude, and I was literally in a room of 50 people, 40 people. It was a pretty big ceremony, and with a shaman from the Yawanawa tribe down in the Amazon, in this room with 40 people, and I was brought down into nothing. I was completely alone, and I basically cried for 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
And it was super powerful. It was super powerful. My wife and daughter came into my mind, and I just burst into tears and felt gratitude and hopelessness and love and loss and all kinds of things. Like every emotion you could possibly feel. It was incredible, and they were very profound experiences. And it really just made me more. It really just brought me deeper into myself, into deeper contact.
Does your family, do they tell you that you changed, like you're different, or have they noticed any changes anywhere? Like say, like maybe your wife, she's been with you long enough, or has she told you like because people get to witness that are close to you. They witness this transformation, and I wonder sometimes, you know, the effect on it. Do they enjoy it? Do they say anything about it? Do they let you know? Like, do they feel you're in a better place? That kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, for sure. My brother in particular, my wife is just really happy to have me emotionally connected.
Yeah, I bet.
You know, there were many years where I wasn't, you know, and I'm much more open. I'm much more emotionally connected, you know, with her and myself first, and then with her, and that transcends our relationship. And I know she's really grateful for that. My brother in particular, he said to me, Ed, you're not even the same guy you used to be. I used to be a really angry guy.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I was, you know, I had a lot of rage, and I wasn't always a nice person to be around. And a lot of times that came out on the people I loved most. And, you know, I'm not that guy anymore. You know, I've done a lot of healing, and I've done a lot of recovering of myself, you know, and quieting that rage. And it's always a practice, and it's still there. And, you know, I'm a human, so it still comes out at times, but, you know, it's much different now. I'm in a completely different realm than I've ever been in.
Oh, I got a question here too that's coming in from the text line, which is, by the way, that's 501-777-5631. Have you, other than your psychedelic experiences, have you had any experiences that were just what we'd say endogenous or natural without the use of psychedelics? Any out-of-body experiences, astral projections, things like that? That's always a big question.
Yeah, the astral. Yeah, I'm sure. Well, yeah. I think that's really interesting. Yeah, I had the 2 astral projection experiences I had were just with meditation. And for a few years after my NFL career, I still do occasionally some acting, and I would go to these acting classes. And part of the prep for the acting class was this green light meditation. And you lie on the floor on your back, and you visualize this green light moving through your body, cleansing you, healing you, releasing any tension in your body. And at the end of it, you move the green light from your feet all the way up to the top of your head. And at the end, it's a visualization practice of leaving your body and traveling to some place. And it's always really interesting, but up until basically like at the end, sort of towards the in-person classes all got shut down when COVID hit, but right up until then, the 2 months before that, so this was 3 years into going to these acting classes, 2 weeks in a row, I had these super intense astral projections. And the first one, and there were dreams in between, where the first one, I went to this planet that it felt like the home planet. And it was something, because always in these visualization things, I would travel to somewhere on the earth or somewhere that from a memory. But this was something completely different. And I actually tried to fight it at first because my soul just started leaving the planet. And I was like, oh, wait, where am I going? What am I doing here? And I was like, oh, fuck, no, just let this happen.
Yeah.
And then I ended up going to this planet. And I was sitting on the shore of this alien planet, which felt like home. And I was just watching the sun go down over the ocean, and I'm sitting next to this tree on the shoreline of this planet. And it was so visceral. It was beyond imagination. I hadn't thought, the thing that is me had not created this. You know, I've done that. I've done the imagining places, being somewhere, you know, all of that stuff, sensory, you know, creation, all of that. This was not that. This was something that was literally given to me. It was provided for me by something else, something beyond me. And then later on, a few nights later, I had a dream that was at another destination in this planet. It was like I was there. And there were these red cliffs, and I was in this, it was like, it was incredible. And then the next week, I did the same thing. And this time it happened even more organically, without me even thinking about anything. And I was like, this is what it is. And I was traveling through this wormhole with these other souls, and we were going to this red planet. And I found myself on this red planet. And it was profound. And it was beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And it was incredible.
Yeah.
It was magical. And it was, you know, it was my experience of astral projection, actually going somewhere, traveling, my spirit traveling somewhere beyond the physical realm.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. I can imagine you too, actually be coming from some type of red planet. If you think about that energy, you know, you came here in this lifetime as a warrior with a little bit of rage. Why not? Red planet would make sense, wouldn't it? You know?
Yeah, definitely. Mars is the Roman god of war, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I got to ask this question because we've never had this opportunity. We've never had, you know, professional athlete, at least not NFL in here. And so another show that comes on, The Secret Teachings, does these Super Bowl like interpretations. Now this is more of a conspiratorial type show, or I would say parapolitical, but we do find the Super Bowl shows interesting. So I got a question from the halftime shows, anyways, from the Night Stalker in the chat room. It says, having the extremely unique perspective of being in a truth-seeking world and been as a professional athlete as well, what do you think when you see people analyze the Super Bowl halftime shows and the different esoteric symbols in sports? Do you think there's anything to it? Now, some of these shows obviously have some real esoteric symbolism in, though. I don't know. I think they're looking for a conspiracy there. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on
it. Can you give an example?
Yeah, like I don't watch them anymore, but the latest one, I forget which one it was, where I think it was Lady Gaga when she came out on like the checkerboard floor and it showed all these phallic symbols, and you know, you see these people having these Illuminati symbols and the birth, death, and resurrection symbolism, and all that they have just seems about like every time, or symbolizing the sun. And there's a thing where I think people kind of think it's being done on purpose in a way, as like some type of super magic sigil, you know, super sigil, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I never paid it much attention.
Anything is possible, man. Anything is possible. You know, I can't. I've come to a place in my life. I've been blessed with this way of thinking where I don't believe anything, but I don't necessarily not believe anything either.
Yeah.
You know, until I've experienced the truth for myself, I can't really say if it's not true or not. And, you know, this term conspiracy theory has been completely weaponized to discredit people from having any opinion outside that of the mainstream media.
Yeah, that's why I changed it to parapolitical, because conspiracy is being used as a weapon for sure.
Yeah.
We can't talk about anything.
I like that, man. I mean, because look, you know, there's all sorts of shit going down that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
That we have no clue about, that the news would never acknowledge, because it just couldn't, the normal person couldn't even handle it. Psychologically, emotionally, like you couldn't handle the reality of the really scary underlying happenings of the world, you know, things that our government does, all sorts of things. I mean, so anything is, in my opinion, you know, I don't know. I've seen a lot of really weird things.
Yeah.
You know, there's been the more aware I get, the weirder it gets.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
that's how I am with the Super Bowl shows too, because I wonder sometimes, like, why? All right. So there's a lot of truth, right? There's the law of polarity. There's the law of vibration and ebb and flow. And there's the birth, death, resurrection, and the sun stuff. And sometimes I think that when we do art or we create, I mean, you see this stuff in movies and music and art, and it's just in everything, right? So some part of me thinks that we just express these things because it's these universal laws live inside of us, and we don't really know that we're expressing it, and we're calling it art. But then there's another part of me that I know for a fact that there are people that are aware of these things, like Grant Morrison, who made the Invisibles, and other people that created, you know, hypersigil stuffs in their artwork, and then it manifested into reality. So it gets a little weird once you start looking at it.
Oh yeah, it's very weird, man. It's very weird. And you know, I think if you think billionaires, look, we all go to work. You know, we all go to work to do things, and we have goals and ideas about what we want to do with our work and how we want to get it done and what it is that we're doing. Billionaires go to work and they figure out how to manipulate people into buying more things and making more money off of people. Is that a conspiracy theory? No, that's called business. That's what these people do for fun, you know? And so why wouldn't they be doing all kinds of weird shit to get people to literally to enslave people into buying more things, to blinding them deeper into the truth? And I mean, that's not conspiracies. That's business for them. You know, yes, people get together. The conspiracy, the definition of a conspiracy is a group of people conspiring to create something or to do something. People do that all the time. You know, so why have we turned this idea of a conspiracy theory into something that's not true?
Yeah, that's what the media is doing too, right? It's the conspiracy theory nutbags. They're saying, don't wear a mask because COVID's not real. And it's like, who's saying that? Really? If you go listen, no one's saying it like that at all, you know?
No one is saying that.
Right. It's like,
but that's how, you know, that's the political and media game.
Right. Yeah. Which to me is that goes back to that thing when we were talking at the beginning of the show. You have to see the law of polarity for what it is, man. And it's being used against you. Like, I'm a hermeticist. I look at those hermetic laws, man.
I love that too. Me too.
They make up everything. Everything. You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
no doubt, Joe. Hermetic alchemy. That's the base. That's the base knowledge right there.
Yeah, and I've read Manly P. Hall. I've read everybody's read Manly P. Hall. It seems like nowadays, but I've read Manly P. Hall. I've read a lot of Western esoteric literature, and the deeper I get into it, the more and more of these cats, especially the Rosicrucians and the old Renaissance alchemists and stuff, you'll find books here and there where they talk about Atlantis, the Lemurians, and things like that. It's like, what? Where are they getting this from?
Absolutely, dude. Well, there's so much we don't know. There's so much.
Yeah.
The industrial education system, it's built to turn you into a robot, basically. Yeah, sure. I mean, Manly P. Hall is fantastic. Alan Watts.
I love Alan Watts.
The Kybalion, the Emerald Tablets, Hermes Trismegistus. Is that how you say his last name?
Yeah, Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice born, who is pretty much the Greek version of Thoth, the Egyptian god.
Exactly. Yeah, man. I mean, there's so much. There's so much. We're not. They don't want people to know that because that doesn't serve them. It doesn't serve them in keeping us in our low level of consciousness, in the state of fear. I mean, dude, just look at the media. Look at what our government has done for the last year. It's been nothing but fear propaganda. Great leaders, I know this for a fact, through my sports career, throughout history, the greatest leaders, they don't lead by fear.
Right.
Fear is not a key principle of leadership. Hope, light, positivity, strength, courage. Those are precepts of true leadership. No true leader leads with fear, propaganda. That's called a tyrant. That's called a dictator. That's called a slave master. Because it doesn't serve them to give you hope to say, hey, if you guys exercise, eat right, change your life habits, and start getting healthy, we can beat this virus. Get your immune system really strong. Do breath work. Do meditation. Get really strong, physically, mentally, spiritually. They don't want that. Right, they want people popping the pills, getting the injections, wearing the mask, eating the fast food. Krispy Kreme's is going to give everybody a free donut for a year.
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
That works. Does that make sense? Are we all laughing yet?
That's so stupid,
it looks pretty ridiculous. It looks pretty absurd to me.
Yeah, it's like the biggest thing that kills everybody is stress, and sugar, right? And the stress, sugar, and chemicals, right? Stress, sugar, chemicals. And then you go to the store and you pick up a box and it's like, well, here's the sugar and chemicals. And then you go home and you put the sugar and chemicals in your bowl and you turn on the TV that gives you the stress. And they're like, well, you might live to be 73. Well, I wonder why, I wonder why. It's pretty simple, right? Man, but
exactly.
We do got to get out of here. So I want to kind of
yeah, brother,
before I let you go, let you plug away your podcast and where everybody can follow you and find you. Obviously need to do that because you spent all this time with us. So please, man, plug away.
Oh man, I appreciate it, Joe. Thank you so much for having me on. This is really a ball. So you can check out my podcast, the Eben Flow, on all your favorite podcast platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Google, all that stuff. I'm also on YouTube. Just search Eben Britton. Check out my website, ebenbritton.com, which really is the hub. It's got access to all this stuff. I've written, some of my writing is on there, and you can also check me out on Patreon at patreon.com/EDS Britton. That's also all of my social media handles is at EDS Britton. And I appreciate you, Joe. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. Maybe we can do it again sometime when you're up for the late night stuff.
Definitely, brother.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys will be back tomorrow night, same time, same channel, right here live on the Fringe FM. And stay tuned for the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. Good night. Sweet dreams.